Welcome to the Millionaire Next Door podcast with Robert Curtis, CFP accredited investment fiduciary from Signature Estate and Investment Advisors. In this podcast, we help successful wealth accumulators like you looking to transition to a work optional lifestyle by helping you build strategies for growing and maintaining your wealth. Robert draws from years of experience and fiduciary responsibility and interviews guest experts to help you build reliable strategies to grow and maintain your wealth. Now, on to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Millionaire Next Door podcast. I'm Robert Curtis. I'm a certified financial planner. Great to have you here. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, we really like to have a lot of guests on and just have interesting conversations. So today, my guest is Michael Bell. He's a real estate broker from Sotheby's in Southern California. He's written a book called Seller Mistakes, What You Were Never Told About Selling Your Home and Why It Should Matter to You. So I've known Mike for a number of years, and he's a high-level professional. I have a lot of network folks. I call it my value-added support team, just folks I can make introductions, but this is just for good information. Mike spent a lot of time writing this book, so he's delivered it a lot. I think there'll be some great tips. So welcome, Mike. Thanks so much for being here.
Robert, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the book. First of all, why did you write the book?
Oh, sure. So I've been selling for 25 years, and I've always been kind of dismayed when I would go to office meetings and hear what the brokers, the managers would tell us to do, and also what the industry, the coaches would tell us to do. And it just didn't seem like it served the client, the seller, very well. And it just didn't seem like it was really that effective. And some of the things I'm talking about are, for example, like open houses or flyers or real estate signs, or there's a whole bunch of stuff that I break down in the book. And so what I decided to do was I researched, and the National Association of Realtors puts out a questionnaire to recent buyers and sellers of real estate, and they ask them all these correct questions. And it was kind of stunning what I found out. And so I decided to expose the industry in a way, and I decided to write a white paper. And a white paper is kind of like a research paper, and started writing that. And I went to a seminar about selling or writing books, and I just thought, well, maybe there's a book there, but probably not. The publisher said after the webinar, I went over and or seminar, I came over and talked to him, and he said that would be a great book. Well, fast forward, it took me 5 years, but the book sold 40,000 copies. It hit the number 3 bestseller list on the Wall Street Journal. It's been 3 years, but the concepts and the mistakes that people make are still the same. And and here we are. I'm being interviewed by you.
No, that's great. I've had other authors for books and things like that. I mean, that's great. So you've offered a service here that's available to folks. They may or may not choose to engage you, but just what you've learned in 25 years, and you say sort of exposing the industry, right? All the quote good, the bad, the dirty little secrets, the stuff that folks really should know, maybe with transparency. Is that the gist of what you're saying that you communicate in the book? If I got that right?
Pretty much. It just goes through all the mistakes that people make that they probably don't realize. And maybe you're just thinking, oh, I know that I should price my property correctly, or I know I should stage it, or I know I should fix the curb appeal. I mean, the word staging it's only mentioned one time in my book. Curb appeal is only mentioned one time in my book. It's other stuff that's very surprising for people.
Okay. Well, it's interesting because I do see homes go. I'm actually doing this from my own office. There was a very nice home right across the street that was, staged. There was a big, I'm looking right at it because it's across the street. I'm thinking about it. But, I understand that there's many pieces that go into the puzzle of getting this done, effectively and optimally. And it sounds like you've sort of I mean, that's how I run my practice. But it sounds like you share a lot of that, walk through the details. Um, Maybe what is your personal mission, I guess, surrounding it, or do you have a personal mission?
Well, I sell real estate, and I like to tell people I'm a first-time author, last-time author, full-time realtor. Um, I enjoy what I do. I mostly represent sellers in the local marketplace. I'm in Pasadena, and I guess my mission, I'd like to get the word out. I do have some bad reviews on Amazon, and they're from realtors. They just
Mm,
they're upset that I kind of let everybody peek behind the curtain as to our
mm.
industry. Um, it you know, I'll give you some interesting doozies, yeah, just to kind of whet your appetite here. For example, the real estate sign. The real estate sign, you have a less than 1% chance of selling your house because of a real estate sign. But most realtors will tell you you should have a real estate sign out there. That's just a national statistic. And also, real estate signs, with the data that they've been able to cull out, they find that it's a little bit dangerous because in a way, it invites people into the backyard,
Hmm.
invites people. Most of my clients opt out of a real estate sign. I mean, there's a number of reasons also that a sign isn't really not that effective. I mean, for one thing, you think about it, it doesn't go viral. People don't shop for real estate by driving around, if you think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's honestly, I look at it as a little bit of a just big advertising for that agent sitting there. But I don't know if it creates a little more sense of scarcity or, you know, exclusivity by not having it. But that's a good tip to know because most people wouldn't know that. Keep keep going with these other thoughts. Love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one of the most shocking things, mistakes that people make is they don't interview at least three agents, and they don't pick somebody who's local and experienced. They say, with these statistics, they say 75% of all home sellers they interview only one agent, which means they just pick somebody. And they usually pick a friend or a family member. And actually, there's a whole chapter on why you probably should reconsider hiring a family
Mm,
or friend, um, to sell your house, and we can go into that. But to go back to, the top mistake that people make is they don't interview at least one agent, and 75% of all home sellers say they would not use their agent again, that helped them buy their house, and you have to wonder, gee, I wonder why. One of the reasons why is that 87% of all agents that get into the business are out of the business within 5 years. So you have yeah,
yeah.
if you're hiring an agent that has less than 5 years of experience, 87% of them are gonna be out of the business. You may wanna reconsider hiring somebody who's really new, and I know that's what really upsets a lot of realtors when they read this book or they hear about it. It's like, "Gosh, give me a chance." But it is what it is. The experienced people do very well, and local people, and you really should interview at least three of them.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. We have a lot of folks that are referred to us, and sometimes they're referred to three people, so they interview three extensively, and a lot comes out in that process.
Mhm.
Including is there a fit? What is their process? It's a chance to really take a deep dive. Now some folks don't want to take the time or effort to go through three if they found the right fit, but I do think it's a good process overall. And folks, we even had many clients engage us where they interviewed three, but we came out as sort of the clear victor, or there was enough contrast or the right fit. That's kind of rewarding. And I think down the line, we're in a more permanent relationship. This is not a transactional thing, but I think there can be some value to that, to somebody putting in the time for a big event. You mentioned, and this right along that theme. I think it applies in my industry too. But not all agents are created equal. There's quite a bit of contrast. um, do you want to? You've already kind of covered that, but do you want to comment a bit on that?
Oh, sure. I mean, Absolutely true, and I think it is with any industry. There is unfortunately, a low bar to get into our industry. You don't have to have a high school education or diploma. You have to have an equivalent. Um, the test is not that hard, and all of a sudden, for a few bucks, for 4 years, you can handle one of the largest transactions for somebody, and a lot of folks get into the business. They know that they they know they have one or two deals under the hood waiting for them if they get their real estate license. And this is where it comes to friends and family. Hey, mom and dad or their friends says to you, well, if you had your license, I'd help you sell my house. The
Mhm.
average agent has two deals under their hood as soon as they get their license, and then after that, unfortunately, most agents kind of start starving. And, we all know that it's really not the best idea to hire somebody who's really, you know, hurting for money. That's for sure. But there's a chapter in the book about you should, in my opinion, you should be very, very reluctant to hire a friend or a family member. And the few reasons for that, of course, is, usually they don't have the experience, but also having a business relationship with somebody that you can't fire is not a good spot to be in. And it's good to have a business relationship with somebody, especially on a transaction this size. It's usually the biggest transaction for anybody, and you kind of take that off the table. I call it the nuclear option. It's nice to be able to yell at somebody or fire them, and you can't do that with a friend or family member. But I'll tell you, there's a lot of people I've talked to over the years have said that the same thing. They've ruined relationships, nice relationships, friendships, and family relationships over a real estate transaction that didn't go very well. And I hate to say it, but real estate has a lot of moving parts when you're selling a house, and it's easy to blame the realtor for something. And sometimes, a lot of times, I would say the realtor is at fault because there's a lot of obstacles in the way, and you kind of have to prepare for all of that. But um, it's rare that a real estate transaction goes really, really smooth. And if you've bought and sold real estate, I'm sure you could pick apart things that could have gone better, of course. But it's tougher when it's a family member in those situations.
Okay. So, I mean, your point is well taken, and I get that the professionalism and dealing with the high level professional instead of, and then probably a lot of these transactions fall into that. But what about? I mean, some of the folks we engage are very high net worth, maybe a little bit more sophisticated. They have a network. So, what about if you're dealing with three agents that are all extremely experienced and doing it, 25 years, handled hundreds and hundreds? What if, any differentiators there, or just interview three and, really do your diligence and pick out the best? Or just curious if you have any thoughts there. Tougher question, but I'm sure you run into that with
Sure,
regularity.
I'm gonna give you an idea. It's a little controversial, perhaps, but uh, what the heck? I think it's really important when you hire a real estate agent, you hire somebody who knows how to negotiate. And the easiest way to figure out if the agent across the table from you knows how to negotiate is to start negotiating their commission. The way they negotiate their commission is probably the way they're going to negotiate the sales price of their house. If you can beat down your realtor, if you can beat them down on commission, let me tell you, a professional real estate agent is going to be able to beat down your realtor in price. And I think you just have to be very careful. In our business, but look, it's not unethical for me to call a seller's agent and say, how low will the seller go?
Mhm.
What were the other offers? What's the motivation? Now, that agent really, it's not none of my business. But I'll tell you one thing, so many of these agents will tell you, and it's usually because they have a weakness. They don't know how to they don't know how to negotiate. That's
That's a great,
unethical.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great tip. I mean, there's a one of my favorite quotes is how you do anything is how you do everything.
yeah,
So, and then, a lot of times, yeah, they, when we get asked that, we certainly don't negotiate our value and what we're delivering. So, but that's interesting. I love all these tidbits or you know points that came out of your process to review what's going on. And I love the I love the perspective of sort of exposing these things so that it's more open, transparent, kind of better for everyone. What's really going on here. Feel free to keep chiming in with some other thoughts or big things that came up
So
in the
I
book.
get phone calls all the time from people that have read the book. I
Uh-huh.
just had a guy call me 2 days ago from Santa Barbara. He asked me if, by chance, if I was moving to Santa Barbara, he'd like me to sell his house for. He read the book and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of all of these concepts and ideas, and they all make sense. They're all statistically backed."
Hmm.
I said, give the book to the next realtor, or give the book to the realtor and ask them what they think about it. And ask them to follow these, well, not to follow these mistakes, but make sure they don't make these mistakes, and find out what their reaction is to it. I mean, one of the mistakes that people make all the time are, they think they have to do open houses. Now, open houses have like a 2 to 6% chance of selling your house. But realtors love open houses. They get to use your front room to market themselves. And guess who goes to open houses? Potential buyers and potential sellers, because your neighbors go to open houses because they want to kind of see what's going on and in the marketplace, and they want to chit chat with the realtor. And agents that do open houses know this. They know that there's a pretty good chance that somebody in the neighborhood is going to be listing their home in the next 6 months, and they do go to the open houses. But open houses are actually incredibly dangerous. I mean, one of the things to think about when you do an open house, there's a number of things to think about, but and I'm going to probably scare your audience into never doing an open house again. But the number one thing that gets stolen out of open houses is prescription drugs. So if you're going to have an open house, the best thing to do is take everything that you don't want stolen and stick it in the trunk of your car and drive away. Don't just leave it in the trunk of the car, because people go into trunks of cars. I mean, you'd be amazed at what happens at open houses. Now, the standard contract, get this, the standard contract in California, the listing contract between the agent and the seller specifically says that we're not liable for what happens in an open house. We don't carry liability insurance. So if somebody, and I don't know who's going into the house, I don't know if they're scoping it out. I don't, and it's hard to keep track of people in an open house. There's many instances where somebody will hide in a house until the open house is done and everything is locked up, and then they unlock the back door and unload stuff. This
Mm.
happens, sorry, this happens more than you want to know. And but the real estate offices don't want anybody to know this. So they usually settle, but they do not want this to get in the media. But people will hide in showers and stuff like that. People will use your bathroom. You can tell your realtor, "Hey, I know we're going to do this open house for 4 hours. I don't want anybody using my bathroom." "Oh, no problem." And then guess what happens? People just go into your bathroom and they lock the door and they use your bathroom. When they find these people that steal from you or are problematic, believe it or not, they don't look like, a hooded, criminal, stereotypical criminal. They look like the average Joe family sometimes. Sometimes they bring kids with them. I mean, I just don't think that you should, um, open houses really shouldn't be part of the marketing strategy for your house. And if you're going to do an open house, there's a whole bunch of tips in there about how to do it. For example, you should have two people doing the open house. You should obviously get rid of all the anything that could walk away from the house that somebody could pick up.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of safety concerns about open houses.
That's wow. That's so you're not a fan or it needs to be done a certain way. You reminded me of an experience. I was down in San Diego in La Jolla. I think I was on a bike ride years ago, and there was place I wanted to check out just for fun. It was an open house. I went inside and started talking with the agent, and because we spend a lot of time down there. But any rate, she kept talking to me and talking to me, and then as eventually what ended up happening, there was some sort of a creepy guy in there. So I was the only other person, and she wanted me to stick around because she was a little freaked out by this guy in her house until he left. And she shared that with me later. So that was but it's probably pretty common, is what you're saying.
Unfortunately, it's common, you know.
Ugh, wow.
So
Okay.
I'm going to throw something out there. Also, it makes you a little may make you a little squeamish about open houses. Uh, they also do surveys of realtors, and they ask realtors, "What do you think of open houses?" and stuff like that. 49% of all realtors at an open house arm themselves, and they arm themselves with either a knife, a pepper spray, a taser, or a gun, in that order. Can you imagine going to work feeling like to get leads, you have to arm yourself? That's a national statistic. 49% of agents arm themselves. And
Okay.
you only heard it here.
Well, we won't ask you directly. There's a 49% chance you're armed. I'm guessing you might be, just budging by what you've said. So
So I've sold 600 homes in my career. I've done 6 open houses. Most of those were early in my career, or they were homes that I sold right across the street from my house. And frankly,
okay.
I didn't want the neighborhood to think I'm super lazy.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know what to say about
so after years, you've refined and optimized this, and open
yeah,
houses is not part of your process at all. In fact, in some regards, you're really protecting the client against these things and yourself, and that hasn't deterred your ability to succeed and complete these transactions at all, is what I hear you saying.
correct. And I just want to throw out something else too. It's
Yeah.
just if there's people that are doubting this, look, the biggest run up in prices ever in real estate happened in the first year that COVID happened. And guess what happened in the first year of COVID? Open houses were illegal by the National Association of
Mm,
Realtors and all the state governments. They all said open houses are illegal. They would not allow open houses. And there were a few people that did open houses in March of 2020 or April 2020, and people got COVID from it, and they got sued and they lost their licenses. So let me ask you this. I mean, does it make sense that there were no open houses, but prices went up? I mean, did it where
well,
the
it
proof
makes
is there.
sense because with what I do, there's an extreme focus on supply and demand,
Yeah,
which I emphasize, and I have it on a very nuanced level, but that, I took a bunch of econ in college, forgot most of it, but I certainly never forgot supply and demand. That's a pretty important factor. So, but it does make a great point, right? That open houses were irrelevant. I had a client who relocated from Southern California, Pennsylvania, on a 21-acre farm. Bought this sight unseen off the internet years ago. When that was so those things can happen too. But he maybe keep going as we start to kind of you know um, land the plane a little bit, but I'd love to hear one or two other really just great points that came up that you want to communicate, and we won't give them all away because you've written a book sharing all this, and we'll let folks know how to get a hold of that, which is great. So keep going for a little bit, maybe with some
sure.
points, and then
Yeah,
yep.
another tip is that print ads and mailers really are usually useless, but print ads and mailers are really great for the realtor. But print ads and mailers, they take a few weeks sometimes to get out, or maybe your realtor is being proactive and the mailers hit everybody's mailbox the day that you actually put it on the MLS. Irregardless, the National Association of Realtors says you have less than a 1% chance of selling your house because of print ads and mailers. Look, If you have a realtor that's at your kitchen table saying, I'm going to do print ads and mailers, open houses, and we're going to have a real estate sign out in front, you might just want to sit there and think to yourself, wait a minute. If you combine all those things, it's about a 6 or 7% chance of selling your house. That's a national statistic. Wouldn't you rather focus on the stuff that really works? And we can talk about that. And it's quite simple, actually. It's pricing your property correctly, marketing it correctly, photos, floor plan, uh, things like that. It is, quite simple. And also, one of the things that realtors don't like me talking about is what's called dual agency. Now, in California, it's legal. It's not legal in 5 other states, and it's limited in a number of other states. And dual agency is when you allow that agent to represent both sides on a transaction. It's a conflict, but it's a conflict that's legal in California as long as it's disclosed. I I propose that if you're going to interview an agent and they're going to come to your house, they should voluntarily tell you that they will not practice dual agency. And what that will do for you is if you hear that from them, first of all, they have a really good reputation, most likely. Probably other agents really like them. But what it means is that you're actually going to probably get more offers and better buyers, and uh, because uh, the buyers and the buyers agents will know that your agent is not trying to grab buyers or represent both sides. It's one of the things that really kind of kills the marketing of a piece of property when an agent and a seller puts their house on the market and they know that the listing agent already has a buyer. Now, that listing agent has to disclose that to the marketplace. They're required by law. So somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm interested in 123 Main Street. Do you have any offers?" And the listing agent has to say, "Yeah," or "I do have a buyer for it." And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, "Boy, I'm never going to get a chance if this listing agent already has a buyer. Why would I write an offer on it, or why would I even show it?" And frankly, you'd be lucky oftentimes if the agent would even tell you that, because a lot of times they won't even tell you that until the last second that they have a buyer. So again, if your listing agent would upfront tell you that they don't believe in dual agency, they won't represent a buyer on your transaction. This checks one of the boxes that you really want to have checked when you're hiring somebody. That's going to be a differentiator.
And does the book go into there's all these chapters, but I mean, does it have that sort of checklist of these things you would want to check off or a process? You sounds like you're suggesting everyone read this if they're considering selling a property or
Well, I would recommend grabbing the book. You can grab it on Amazon,
yeah.
and if you're not into reading the whole book, you can read the last 5 pages, and I break down uh, the basics of what to avoid and what to do when you're selling a house. And like I said, there's nothing about staging your house. There's nothing about curb appeal.
Mm.
This goes really behind the curtain, and it's like I said, it's backed up by statistics, most of it, and of course, strong opinion too from me. But take it for what you know. It's an easy read. I think it all makes sense. And frankly, I was hoping to sell just a few hundred copies. I was surprised that it sold so many.
So that's great. Just curious, backing up. So it's made at times it's made you a little unpopular within the industry, right? With some other colleagues who wanted to keep this not exposed to the light of day. Has that impacted you in any way, or you just wanted to share it from a professional courtesy and to provide good service to and raise
Well,
the bar on your professionalism? Just curious how that's landed for you.
well, that's a great question. In all fairness, not all realtors are bad. There's bad apples in every industry, and it's easy to kind of pick apart real estate agents, and I get it. Um, we're down on the pole in terms of um, uh, uh, public perception. I think we're close to used car salesmen, which I think is unfair. But I think most agents agree to all of this stuff. But unfortunately, the big things is I say, open houses, print ads, the real estate sign, you really don't need to do those, or you shouldn't really hang your hat on those things. But get this, all realtors hang their hat on those things because they're lead generation
Yeah.
processes for them. And why would you cut that out? And
Okay.
I'll tell you, most realtors don't know these numbers. They don't know the stats. I was amazed when I heard about these stats. And when other realtors read these, they're like, "Oh my God, I had no idea that the real estate sign and print ads were less than 2% of what actually helps sell a house." It's staggering.
What about these, as we start to land the plane,
Yeah.
there are these pre-open houses like a couple days before. I think around here they do it on a Thursday where it's just open to the other realtors to come take a look and shop it around. Is there a value or a merit or that in that, or what's your thoughts on that, or is there value in that, or not
So
really?
that's what's called a broker caravan, and it's an old word. And the idea it's an open house basically for realtors. And it sounds like it's not done on a very good day. Why would you want to do it on a Thursday from 11 to 2? Every city has something a little bit different. I'm in Pasadena, and the surrounding multiple listing services all do it on different days, but the one in Pasadena is on Thursday. And the idea is that it's like a caravan. Realtors would go out and see the product. And it's an opportunity for the agent to go physically into the house and take a look at it without an appointment. And they just kind of walk through. Oftentimes, the realtor is just on their cell phone and they're chit chatting with somebody, and they're just walking and basically looking at the product. Um, the caravans came about. They've been around forever for the most part. I mean, our system has been around for over 100 years, at least in Pasadena. And in the old days, we had these old books that were in black and white, and they had four photos of a house, and it came out every 2 weeks. And it was like a phone book, and that was the listing service. And then it went onto the computer. And now, at least in our area, it's really elevated to a point where there's so much great information on there, you almost don't need to go see the house. But I say almost because I think you should still go see the house. But as you know, even with the consumer side, they can see photos and floor plan, they see the description, they know the bed bath count. It used to be that the real estate agent was really the control that information, and you had to go through a real estate agent because I mean, you as a buyer, you couldn't go out and get this MLS book, and when the MLS came about, you couldn't log into the MLS, and there was a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court and that opened it all up. So that's why you can see pretty much almost everything that realtors can see. Um, but the broker caravan is actually it's not usually a preview. It's just really for realtors, and it's a little bit of a social thing for agents. But I think it's important. I go on Thursday and I buzz in to see houses, even though I'm not previewing them for a buyers. Oftentimes, it's really important to see product, and it's important to have a good reputation with agents and chit chat with them because there's not that much opportunity anymore with after COVID. A lot of people still are not coming to the office, so people are working in other homes like you and me. It's nice to socialize with people, and you know you're working with these people. It's good to get face to face with them.
Well, thanks so much, Mike, for sharing these thoughts. How Talk about how people can get the book and or reach you if you like. You're welcome to share that. But
Sure, if they want to, they can go on Amazon and just type in seller mistakes. They'll find it. Um, my website has a free audio book. If you feel like it, you can stream it or download it. And it's michaelbbell.com, michaelbbell.com. If you'd like a signed copy, I have a whole bunch of author copies. And every few weeks, I put a batch in the mail, and I just like to get the information out there. And if you have any questions or just want to chat for 5 minutes, I'm very available. I'd love to chat with people. I like to help people. I like to talk about this stuff. And if I don't pick up, I will call you back within 6 hours.
That's great. That's terrific. Yeah. We'll put links to the show notes as well. So if anybody's interested now or in the future, just as folks and longtime listeners know, this is kind of an evergreen resource. So this
Yeah.
could be front and center for you now, or it could come up 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. You can say, oh yeah, that podcast where we unlocked it, who was that individual? It'll be available then. So great. I want to thank you, unless there's any other closing comments, but this has been really great. I applaud your efforts to kind of go deep and share this, and it's been really helpful. So thanks so much, Mike.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah, well, just so you know, we probably hit 40% of the mistakes and suggestions in the book, and so there's more, and I think that would most people are very surprised when they read this book, and oftentimes it's great for a seller just to have it, just because it will make their transaction smoother. The thing that people don't like is losing money, and they don't like headaches, and they usually go hand in hand. And this will really alleviate most, if not all, of those mistakes, especially if you follow these basic concepts. And you have really good communication with your realtor. We had talked about, you had said, what if you bring in three really great people and interview them? Part of the way you should decide is that you're going to be having this transaction with this person for 1 month, 2 months, maybe, unfortunately, maybe 6 months. You better like them. You better be able to communicate with them. And you don't have to have a beer with them, but they have to be the kind of person you'd like to have a beer with too.
Yeah, 100%. Relationships are really important. But I applaud your efforts we try and do the same thing, just a lot of preparation, in like folks retiring, we might spend 2 years going over the numbers before they slip a note under the door or hand in their retirement notice. But it's a lot of prep work, and it's relationship, and it's about really developing a refined and optimized process that sets one apart. And it sounds like you've done that. So there's a lot of value there. But I love all the tips. That's great. The folks, you have contact to the book. We need to wrap up here. I want to respect your time, and maybe we'll have you back to go into some more if we missed anything. But I thank you so much, Mike. I hope everyone has a terrific day, and thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Millionaire Next Door podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Signature Estate and Investment Advisors. Signature Estate and Investment Advisors, LLC, SEIA, is an SEC registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. Securities offered through Signature Estate Securities LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through SEIA LLC, 2121 Avenue of the Stars, Suite 1600, Los Angeles, California, 90067. Telephone number 310-712-2323.
All investing involves risk. Past performance does not indicate future results. Specific products discussed are not suitable for all investors.